Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today is going to be a different kind of video. Been doing a lot of Karma lately. I think Matt may have already gotten out the rifle one. I'm going to take my turn on showing you all my reloading setup and how I do my reloading. Show you all this stuff behind me and a few extra things, and then we'll do like 10 9mm from start to finish, just so you can see how it runs on a progressive press, and maybe it'll interest you. A lot of the information will be the same, but it has its differences and pros and cons. So let me show you what I work with. Okay, so this press here, Lee Pro 1000. This one, I believe, I got it from Matt. He didn't care for it. He went with his big orange one that y'all seen in his video. I believe it's a Loadmaster. It's basically the same thing. It's got a few differences, but nothing really major. I have added some stuff to this press, and we'll get to that in a minute. This is the press I started out with. It is just a Lee single stage. I still use it quite frequently. It's great. It's inexpensive, and if you're just wanting to dip your toe into the water, it's a great option. Back here, I have all my dies. This is just a bin of miscellaneous pieces like these here, and we'll get to those. I have my primers. I also have bins for brass. I'm not completely set up in the new reloading room. And then over here, this here, I'll break it out of the box when we go to do the process, and I'll show you kind of how it sets up and how to work it. But it's the Lyman Case Trim Express. This, as far as rifle cases or anything with a shoulder on it, oh my, it revolutionized how I reload, and it made my process so much quicker. Here is the original way I did it, and this works. It's great. Originally it came with a hand crank on the end, and you just kind of, give it a little spin. I can't remember the company that sells this. I believe it's a whole new shaft, but you can hook a drill to it and it speeds things up. For me, the slowest part of it was every time you put in a case, you have to lock it in and then crank or spin the handle and then unlock it and take it out and put a new one in. And it eats up a lot of time when you're doing large quantities. At the time I was loading, I was loading somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 to 1,000 rounds at a time. That was also back when primers were a dime a dozen. You could find them everywhere. It wasn't a big deal. Now I don't reload nearly as much, and on top of that, we have started a YouTube channel, so that takes up quite a bit of my time. And that workspace right there is my wife's office temporarily. I say temporarily for at least another year, until our oldest leaves for the military now. Which, she works from home. Gotta do what you gotta do, and it's not that big a deal. I can get in here on the weekends. I typically don't because, well, that's when I have the most help to do things out in the garage, so I don't have time to get in here. Most of that's on me though. So back to the gear. This, I know y'all seen Matt's setup he uses. Oh, just turn that around backwards for priming. This is mine. It's a little more bulky, has a steeper learning curve because pieces of it come out and interchange and all kinds of stuff, but it came with a lot of shell plates, which is why I liked it. You get some instructions with it on how to do it. I haven't had this long, probably 6 months. I've only used it twice. But the reason I bought that is because I do all of my priming and depriming on my single stage, and I'll talk about that later. But not being able to get in here through the between 8 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock in the evening, because the wife's in here doing her job, I can't reload. And prepping the casings and stuff is the longest part. It truly is. It takes forever. So with the hand loader, it affords me the opportunity to take it into the living room or the kitchen table or down to the garage or wherever without having to disassemble my reloading setup. And I can prime brass. I'll take you downstairs to the garage here in just a few and show you my processing station and my tumbler that I use. But in the meantime, so I sort my brass into these cylinders. A friend and a guy I do Boy Scouts with, he had access to these at one point in time, and they had extras, and he grabbed me some. So I don't know, I've got 8 or 10. So let me show you how I do this. So this is my closet. So as you can see, there's my 223s that are missing. I sort mine, it's fresh off the range, it's been sorted, whatever, so it needs to be processed. And then once it's been processed and primed and is ready to go, then it goes into the one that says ready to load. Imagine that, right? This is where I keep different batches of brass that I've picked up and just have been too lazy to do anything with. And then hiding down there on that bottom shelf, or bottom-ish shelf, is all my projectiles. And then over here in the corner is my old setup before I moved into this room. That's just miscellaneous pistol and rifle brass. I keep threatening to make a wind chime or do something with it. I don't know. But it's all calibers I don't reload that have been given to me or had been picked up at the range by mistake, or something to that effect. My setup really isn't super fancy. I go through phases of reloading a lot, not reloading at all. Typically I'll reload excuse me, every piece of brass I have and use every primer and whatnot and just have everything loaded, and then I just shoot when I feel like it or whatever. And then when I get low, I'll go through the process again. I love the fact that I can reload and make either plinking ammo, something I'm gonna just go punch paper with, whatever. I use the single stage if I'm doing precision, up to a certain caliber. If I need to go, like my 300 Win Mag, I'll probably run out to Matt's and have him on his bigger press. It's a lot more sturdy. Do my 300 Win Mag. Not that I can't do it on this, but it'd be quicker out there. And eventually, maybe even when we get the shop done and he gets his big reloading room set up out there, I may take all of this out there with it set up and or just take it out there and reset it up, and then he can use it, I can use it, and we'll just do all our reloading out there. And then this would just turn straight back into a gun / camping, scuba diving, all that stuff kind of room. Plus it keeps my junk out of the wife's way. Not necessarily right this minute since she's working in it, but you know, it keeps it out of her way. So let me run you downstairs and I will show you my my tumbler and my processing station, and then we'll come back up here and I'll show you how to use the progressive press, talk through a few more things, and we'll take some 9mm, I'm pretty sure it's range pickup, and run it through all the way to a completed round. So let me head downstairs. Okay guys, we made it downstairs. It took a whopping 30 seconds to get here. All right, so this is my processing station. Slightly different than Matt's. I can run 5 processes at one time, and they're all just kind of chucked in that hole. But you know, I can do the inside or the outside chamfer, or clean up the inside. I can do, what is that one? That one's the large primer pocket. And then I also have this cutter here that cuts your military crimps and whatnot out. And then if I was to choose, I have several different size brushes, and then I can clean them out. Now, this monstrosity right here, as you can see by the size of my hand and the size of the lid, I can put, this is from Harbor Freight. It's a 120 volt variable bowl tumbler. I think it's typically used for like rocks and whatnot, but versus, well, you guys seen Matt's. I used to have the same one. I used it for years until it finally broke. And when it was time to upgrade or buy a new one, I bought this. I went from being able to do, depending on the size of brass, I could do like 150-ish 9mm at a time without overloading it. Maybe 100 223. With this monstrosity, I've done 700 9mm and probably the same in 223 or 308, and still had tons of room. It takes a lot of media, it takes more polish, but I can knock out almost all of the brass I'm going to want to handle for a couple weeks, especially doing the processing. The processing station on this is god awful. This is a great tool. Don't get me wrong. This is a great tool, and it's way faster than doing it by hand with the little hand tools that you can buy in a starter kit for like that single stage press. I wouldn't wish that using that stuff on my worst enemy. I really wouldn't. Even with this station, if I sit and do 700-800 rounds in a day, I have to wear gloves. I mean, I work on a lot of stuff. I have some decent calluses. I still get blisters. Maybe I'm just gripping it too tight. I don't know. Probably. But I would like to upgrade one day to the Dillon, because like Matt said in his video, if you buy their biggest press, I can't remember which one it is, you can literally do everything from start to finish in one sweep. It holds like 8 or 10 processes on it. I mean, it's a great setup. But if I could afford the $5 grand to set it up, Sure. The only complaint I do have with it is its priming system. I don't like the tubes. I prefer Lee's version, and we'll show you that here in just a second. We're gonna head back upstairs and start doing the processes of reloading 9mm. So let me get back up there and grab my cameraman, and we'll do that. Okay guys, so we're back up here, and let's talk about the press itself. So on this one, I have a case feeder. I have a projectile feeder, and I have my powder feeder. Underneath the powder feeder, I have a disc. The gray ones I had to buy separately. I think I may have even bought an extra set of the black for doing rifle cases, because you'll have to stack them. So the powder thrower operates. It knows when there's a case in the hole. So when it comes up, it will throw powder. It's fancy, but it's not. I don't have anything out here to catch my projectiles, so I just kind of gotta catch them by hand right now. Not a big deal. We're gonna do 10, and like I said, I'm gonna show you the process. So first things first, I need to confirm this is 9mm. It is. There it is. That's set. So now for depriming, I want to push my ram all the way up, insert my die, and you want to bring it down till it kisses the top. Not the pin, there. Just there. And the amount I just backed that off is, there it is. So that's good to go. So now that I've done that, these are straight wall, and depending on who you talk to on whether they need lube or not, but lube's always a good thing. Yes, I know, Matt. All right, so we'll just give them a little squirt. Try to do. So all I want to do, I got a little tube here on the press that's going to catch it. Now this is depriming and resizing all in one whack. So hurry up and run through these. Ooh, that one almost missed. It's got a little pocket back here that the primers are supposed to fall into. If you get a little overzealous on how hard you do it, they can shoot out to the side. Not a big, oh, not a big deal. Now it doesn't look like it, but I'm giving it a quick inspection to make sure that the top of the casing isn't caved in or anything as I'm doing this process. Throughout the whole process of reloading, I will make sure that at every step I'm inspecting. Okay, and that's how you deprime. Find a little rag. All this is doing is wiping off the excess. These rounds are relatively clean, or these casings are relatively clean. So I'm not going to worry about tumbling them right now. If this was 223 or was legitimate range brass that I picked up and it had laid out in the rain or something like that, I would worry about tumbling. Tumbling is a very important thing. It's a little dark in here, and if I turn my light on over there, then you won't be able to see anything. Now, typically on a straight wall casing, you don't have to measure for case length. They will typically split before you get to the maximum length. So I've had tons of old timers tell me that, who have been at this way longer than I have, and it's served me well so far. I do suggest, if you're just starting out, to use your micrometer. I have one right here, which we'll use later. They don't have to be the most expensive ones on the planet. Always, in your measurements and stuff, my philosophy is to leave a little leeway just in case my caliper is out of sync, or my powder thrower throws a little high, a little low, whatever. That being said, now at this point we are ready to, we're going to prime. CCI primers, 500 nickel plated. And I remember when this was $3, now it's $30, if you can find them. Okay, now we're going to try and do the flip without spilling these everywhere, and we're going to. That's more than enough for our purposes. Hey, look at that, I ain't even got them in the right way. And you just give it a little jiggle. Both of these presses, if you look at the back, they have a setup for priming. I do not use it. The reason being is I am particular on how I like my primer set, and I'm not super experienced, and no one has, other than YouTube University and just talking to people, I haven't been able to figure out how to make sure that that thing primes every time, so I just don't use it. I would rather take the time and have to do it on this than do it anywhere else. I'm going to go ahead and pull this out. You don't have to take this out. It isn't going to hurt anything to leave it. It's just one of the things I do. But, bring it over. It puts the primer in the little deal. You do have a large and a small one. The large one's in there. And then down. Oh, there it is. Make sure your primer is at least flush, and you're done. All right, so show you one more time. Bring it over. Primer goes in. Sometimes they get a little cattywampus. Usually I try to get my kids to do this for me so I don't have to. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. But they've been helping me reload since they've been little. I forgot to put the casing in there. All right, so I'm gonna do this last 7, and then we'll come back and show you the next step. Okay guys, so we have our 10 done. So the next thing I wanna do is set up my press. So before you really get into reloading, you need a book of some sort. This book is from 2016. It's a little old, but I've been using the same load data since I bought it. And this book was $9 at Walmart versus I have an actual reloading book that's like yay thick. Tells you all the same information, may have a few different rounds in it, like some of the crazier rounds that you don't use as often. This is a way better option in my opinion. I don't need to spend $50 to get 9mm and 223 and 308. You know, if I was doing like a Wildcat or 50 BMG, something like that, you know, something that not your average person uses on the daily, weekly, monthly, whatever, you know, then sure, yeah, I would buy that. But for someone just starting out, go to Walmart, go to your reloading store. They'll have stuff like this. Buy one, and I mean, you can always get online and look it up too. But this is what I use. So this right here is what I'm using. 124 grain, HB, RN, TP. Okay, and basically it's a round note. Okay, they used to be in a box. The box got destroyed. I bought like 1,000. So now they're just in a Ziploc bag. Setting this up, I need to figure out my load data, and I'm not going to show you the load data. Damien, don't show, because we ain't going to be responsible. However, I forget what kind of pistol this is being shot out of. So everything's going to change. You need to really build your loads based on your firearms. So you may start out at that 3.6, load you 4 or 5, take it out, shoot it. Okay, they group pretty well. Or, oh my God, that was god awful. Whatever the situation, and build, you know, depending on who you are, you might do, like so this is what, 3.6, I can go to 4.1, so 3.8, 4, and 4.1. I would just do 3.6, 3.8, 4.0, shoot them and see how they do. Pick the one that shoots the best and shoot, go back and reload 0.1 either side of it. So 3.9, we'll say it was the 4.0 that shot best. Load you a 3.9 and a 4.1. I personally, on plinking rounds, will never shoot the high. Never. I don't care. It's just to punch paper. It's to get that muscle memory. It's to just get the training. I'm not concerned about being able to put every bullet through the same hole, standing, freehand, whatever, you know. It's to get the muscle memory. It's to get the training. Now, when I load carry ammo, then I care. Then I will sit down, I will work through every load and make sure everything is to exacting standards. Like I said earlier, typically you don't trim your 9mm or your straight wall casings. I will. I will sit down, I will trim them to where every one of them is the exact same length. Instead of using the powder thrower, and these discs that I'm going to introduce you to here in just a second, I will actually sit down with a powder trickler and my scale, and I will weigh everything out exact. It may take me 2 extra hours to do, my pistol carries 17 per, so 35 rounds, because not having one in the chamber, in my opinion, is a bad idea. However, each to their own. But I will load those 35 rounds to the exact same. And if they aren't, I will do it again until they are. Because I care about what I carry versus what I just go to the range or to Matt's house to his range and just plink. Okay. That being said, I picked my powder weight, but there is a conversion table on Lee's website that tells you, based on this grain or on the grain you select, what disc you should be using. Okay, so these numbers all of them, well, each set has all kinds of different numbers. These numbers dictate how much powder is actually being thrown. And you have different types of powder. You have flake, you have stick. Stick kind of looks like lead pencil that's been broken up. Flake looks like you took an extremely sharp knife on that same piece of material and just shaved it off into little fine circles. But depending on whether you're using a stick powder or a flake powder on how it will relate to what number you use. So every time you use a different powder, you need to go back and look at that conversion, because it will tell you the difference. You know, you'll put in what kind of powder you're using. Like for us, we're going to use Tight Group, which is a flake. Let me see if I can get something up here. So that's a flake. I have some stick somewhere, I just don't know where off the top of my head, but it will tell you the difference. For instance, using flake, you might use a 0.40 to get 4.0 grain. But if you're using a stick, you might have to use the 0.43 to get the same exact 4.0, because it's going to fill this chamber differently, is what the reason. My press, this is dedicated to 9mm. It is set up. I do not change it. I do not touch it other than to prepare. On this side, this is not a standard feature. This is a projectile feeder, and hopefully today it's going to work fine for us. They can be a little finicky, but I will load 10 projectiles in here, and this will actuate, and I won't have to feed them in by hand, hopefully. But when you're starting out and you don't have that, that's what you do. I will load up my 10 cases and get them ready. That way, every time I pull the handle, it will feed one. Now, typically, when you're doing a big batch, you will fill all these up and you will have some on here. And the theory is that you can shake it and they will go primer first down. In my experience, that's not always the case. So either just fill the tubes and keep this on there like I do in order to keep these straight. But you do you. Also on mine, I had put a mark on my powder thrower. And the reason I do that is because when I get into a groove, I forget to check my powder. So this gives me a visual reference when I'm reloading to check my powder. Now, that don't look like a lot of powder, but it is. You can do probably 60, 70 rounds in that. It is a bad day when you don't know how much powder you put in, because you forgot to look and you don't know how long you've been running with no powder. Ask me how I know. I had to buy this handy dandy device. It allows you can't really see, they're pretty well worn off, but I can tell you that mark right there is for 223. I did some 223 on that press there and ran out of powder. And I shot 3 squid loads in a row, which is very dangerous, especially if you're just starting out and you don't pay close attention to your firearm. You don't hear the difference in the round going off. Luckily, with my experience in the military, I have shot a tremendous amount, and every time it went off and it didn't sound right, I caught it. So I didn't end up shooting one round into the back of another. And if you can't hear, that is my cat, Binks, who is dying because Dad is in here doing something without him. But yeah, I had 2,000 rounds. I had to go back through and pull the projectiles out, dump out the powder, because I was worried about it being contaminated, and that was a costly mistake. And luckily I was able to find a place that sold this tool. I bought it off eBay. and it was great versus using the kinetic camera. Oh God, that would have been god awful. So slow and smooth, pay attention, don't get in a hurry. Okay guys, so next I'm gonna put my powder in. Me personally, I put tape on the lid because a progressive press can get a little violent sometimes, or I can get a little violent, and I've knocked the lid off and it goes across the room, or I step on one and break it, which I've done a few times, but for this I'm not going to worry about it. Again, like I said, it's already set up, so we're not worried about that. So I'm just going to dump some powder in here. That's probably way more than I need. When you set this up, make sure you run a few rounds through beforehand, especially if you're not priming, to make sure you're getting the proper powder throw. I just used this the other day. I know my powder's on. If you're not using a bullet feeder or a projectile feeder, you can actually pull it out of the side here and inspect it and make sure there's powder in it. I wait to put these in because this piece moves the whole time. So I will wait until I have put powder into one before I start dropping my projectiles in. So this is where everything comes together. Okay, we'll see how that works. So on this, as it comes back, it drops one down. You want to ensure that that case, when it pushes forward, is going to clear this piece. Oh, something's binding. Okay guys, I got the binding figured out. Sorry about that. It just needed a little extra love. All right, so I've got the first one over here into the second stage, which is the powder stage. So we'll run it all the way up. It throws the powder. Oh, okay. So now that I have the second round, or the second casing sitting in the powder slot, one in the start stage and one in the, well, normally that's your depriming stage, and one here in the projectile stage. Come on, quit being finicky. Sometimes they are. It's no big deal, but this is the realities of reloading. Sometimes it don't go as planned. All right, and then it will come up. The projectile will go into the seating and crimping die and be waiting on you. When you come down, it will kick it out, and then you'll have a full one. Evidently, my bullet feeder needs to be adjusted, which is not a big deal. But now we know our overall length, which I should have probably had this set up already. Okay, so I know that I'm good. Maybe give it a little scotch down. And now it's just rinse and repeat. I need to readjust that, but that's no big deal. It figures I put it on camera and it don't want to work right. Alright. I'm going to finish these up and then we'll come back to you and close out. Okay guys, so as you can see over here, there's my 10 rounds that are ready to go punch holes in paper. This video wasn't necessarily about this is how you do it. This is more of a, this is how I do it. These are the things I use. Like most things in life, there are tons of ways to do things. I'm the one who got Matt into reloading, and he does it differently than I do. You just have to try it and get someone to help you, preferably who knows what they're doing when you're first starting, to help you at least get it set up and running and make sure you're not doing anything that's going to hurt you or others. Just take your time, be safe, and enjoy it. You will, well, you probably won't save a lot of money. Not nowadays. You may. The more you reload, the more you're going to save. If you're just reloading to shoot a box or two, you're not going to save any money. I'm almost 15 years into this, and I'm seeing a good amount of savings at this point. But if you're wanting to get into some kind of competitive shooting or something, even just on the weekends here and there, nothing professional. Like around here, they have a steel challenge on like the 3rd Saturday of every month or something like that. I reload so eventually I can go do that. I need to practice a lot more before I go try it, but it's just a big fun thing. But I don't want to get out there and look like a fool. But I hope y'all enjoyed this video. It is a different, something different, and we will be getting back on Karma here soon, hopefully. We're waiting on some parts to show up for it and get it done and get the first start and the cam break-in all done. But this is just something a little different. I know Damien's itching for Karma. But if you could, you know, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Leave us a comment. I know we keep saying that, but if you like what you're seeing, let us know. We will do some more reloading stuff. It's all an adventure, right? We don't just do off-roading and working on Jeeps. I build things. I'm remodeling on our house here and there. We both reload. We scuba dive. We do a lot of different things. So let us know what you guys like seeing, and we'd be more than happy to get some videos out of us doing some of that as well. But until then, we'll see you next Friday. Bye, guys.